Intense battle rages in Sagaing Region as Myanmar, Junta struggles to retain control. Pandaw Township, Sagaing Region, Myanmar, March 23, 2025. On the evening of March 23, 2025, fierce clashes erupted in the Pandaw Township area of Sagaing Region between Myanmar's military junta, its allied militant groups, and various resistance forces, including the People's Defense Forces, PDF, the Kuki National Army Burma, KNA B, and the Kachin Independence Army, KIA. The battle has intensified throughout the night, with the junta losing control of several key strategic positions in the region. As the situation unfolded, reports indicated that the junta's losses prompted a swift response, and by around 9:40 p.m., air support was called in by the military. Airstrikes targeted areas held by the resistance forces, which included a mixture of ethnic armed organizations and local PDF groups active in the Sagaing region. This escalation of military airstrikes marked a critical point in the ongoing crisis that has been devastating Myanmar since the military coup of February 2021. Disclaimer: the details of the incident on March 23, 2025, are yet to be confirmed. This report was sourced through various news outlets, including local sources, and Zelengam Media urges caution as further information becomes available. Background: the crisis in Myanmar. The conflict between Myanmar's military junta, which seized power in a coup against the democratically elected government of Aung San Suu Kyi, and the National League for Democracy, NLD, in February 2021, and the various ethnic armed organizations, EAOs, and resistance groups, has plunged the country into a state of civil war. What began as peaceful protests against the coup quickly escalated into an armed struggle with opposition forces, initially composed of the civilian-led PDF, joining forces with ethnic armed groups like the KIA, KNA B, and others. These resistance groups, unified under the banner of the National Unity Government, NUG, seek to dismantle the junta's rule and restore democracy. Many of these groups receive support from Myanmar's ethnic minorities, who have long been marginalized by the central government, as well as from international actors sympathetic to the people's struggle. In addition to the PDF, which has become one of the largest armed resistance groups, ethnic organizations such as the KIA and KNAB have played a pivotal role in the conflict. These groups have long-standing grievances with the Myanmar military, stemming from decades of persecution, human rights abuses, and a lack of political autonomy for their communities. The Sagaing region has become a focal point for intense fighting due to its strategic importance, natural resources, and proximity to several ethnic minority territories. Since the beginning of the conflict, the region has been a hotbed for clashes between junta forces and resistance fighters. The battle for Pandaw Township, Pandaw, located in the Sagaing region, has seen escalating military activity in recent weeks as resistance forces moved to retake territory previously under junta control. Its strategic position has made it an important target for both sides, and as the junta's forces have been pushed out of key areas in the region, they have resorted to airstrikes and heavy-handed tactics to reassert their dominance. As of March 23, 2025, reports suggest that significant gains were made by the PDF and their allies, including the KIA and KNA B, in and around Pandaw. Resistance fighters, aided by local militia groups, reportedly captured several key military outposts in the area. This led to a counter-offensive by the junta, which, already under strain from other fronts, called in air support to regain control of the situation. The airstrikes, which began around 9:40 p.m., targeted resistance positions, marking a dramatic escalation in the ongoing conflict. Ethnic armed groups' role and growing resistance. Ethnic armed organizations have played a significant role in the resistance against the Myanmar military junta. The KYA, primarily operating in Myanmar's northern Kachin state, has long been involved in a struggle for autonomy and self-determination. Over the past years, the KIA has strengthened its alliance with the PDF and other groups, forming a united front against the military dictatorship. The KNA B, operating in Myanmar's northeastern border areas, has also been a key actor in the resistance. Their involvement in Sagaing has been crucial, as they have disrupted military supply lines and staging areas. Their cooperation with the PDF and other resistance forces has helped amplify the pressure on the junta's forces. In addition to these ethnic groups, smaller local militias have also joined the fight. Many of these groups are fighting not only for national freedom, but also for the rights of their ethnic communities, who have suffered from military oppression for decades. Humanitarian crisis deepens. As the conflict between the junta and resistance forces intensifies, the humanitarian crisis in Myanmar has worsened. Battles in regions like Sagaing have forced thousands of civilians to flee their homes, worsening the already dire refugee crisis. The United Nations and other human rights organizations have condemned the junta's use of indiscriminate violence against civilians, including airstrikes, artillery shelling, and ground assaults, which have led to numerous casualties. The situation in Sagaing is particularly concerning due to the large number of civilians caught in the crossfire. Local human rights organizations report that the number of internally displaced persons, IDPs, in Myanmar has now exceeded 1.5 million, with thousands more needing urgent assistance. Basic services and humanitarian aid remain severely restricted due to the junta's military blockades, leaving many displaced individuals vulnerable to starvation, disease, and exposure. The military's use of collective punishment, including the destruction of entire villages suspected of supporting resistance fighters, has also resulted in widespread infrastructure damage, making life even more difficult for civilians. Villages in areas close to contested regions like Pandaw have been subjected to airstrikes and artillery bombardments, leaving them in ruins. International response. The international community has largely condemned the actions of Myanmar's junta, but concrete steps to address the crisis have been slow and ineffective. While the United Nations has called for an end to the violence and an arms embargo on the junta, these resolutions have had little impact on the ground as the military continues its brutal campaign to retain control. Regional powers like China and Russia have been criticized for their support of the junta. Both countries have provided economic and military assistance, enabling the regime to continue its war against the people of Myanmar. China, in particular, has come under scrutiny for supplying weapons to the junta and offering political backing in international forums. On the other hand, India has faced challenges with the growing refugee crisis and the complex balancing act of managing diplomatic relations with Myanmar's military rulers. Meanwhile, Western nations such as the United States, the United Kingdom, and the European Union have imposed sanctions on Myanmar's military leaders and military-owned enterprises. Despite these efforts, the junta's grip on power remains strong, and there has been little sign that the international response will force any meaningful change. A long road ahead. As the battle for Pandaw and the broader Sagaing region continues, the situation in Myanmar remains highly volatile. The military junta's hold on power is increasingly fragile, but its ability to maintain control through force remains a significant threat to the opposition. For the resistance forces, including the PDF, KIA, and KNA B, the fight for autonomy, democracy, and human rights continues despite the overwhelming odds. The people of Myanmar have shown remarkable resilience in the face of brutal repression, but the road to peace and stability remains distant. With ongoing airstrikes, artillery bombardments, and military crackdowns, the civilian population continues to bear the brunt of one of the most brutal civil wars in recent history. The international community, although providing some support to the resistance, remains divided on how best to resolve the crisis. while efforts continue to impose sanctions on the junta and push for diplomatic solutions, the prospects for peace seem distant. For now, the people of Myanmar remain locked in a desperate struggle for freedom, justice, and self-determination. As the situation unfolds, the world watches closely, hoping for a resolution, but fearing that the conflict may drag on, causing even more suffering and hardship for Myanmar's population. Disclaimer: the details of the incident on March the 23rd, 2025, are yet to be confirmed. This report was sourced through various news outlets, including local sources, and Zalingam Media urges caution as further information becomes available. For more updates on the ongoing crisis in Myanmar, subscribe to Zalingam Media's YouTube channel for live coverage and in-depth reports.